is Zadie, and you are watching my channel Flytte Kartina, which is where I talk about movies, movie trailers, movie scenes, everything that has to do with movies. Right now I do have a special segment for a television show specifically for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that drops on every Tuesday after the episode airs. So if you're looking forward to that, go ahead and check that video out. It'll be up in the cards. Today we're going to be talking about a movie that you may have heard of. It's just a little small movie, very much in the VFX world. It's called Godzilla vs. Kong. In a time when monsters walk the earth, humanity's fight for its future sets Godzilla and Kong on a collision course that will see the two most powerful forces of nature on the planet collide in a spectacular battle for the ages. If that doesn't get your adrenaline pumping, I don't know what will. I'm not really into the whole monster movie genre of things. It's not really my kind of movie that I really want to watch. It's something that I would watch with other people for fun, maybe. But regardless of that, Godzilla vs. Kong is a movie that was released on HBO Max on streaming, also in select theaters that have been open. This is definitely a movie that's meant for the movie theater, so if you can't see it in theaters, go ahead and do that because that's where this movie is meant to be watched. Very much a very big blockbuster hit. You can tell that this movie had a lot of money behind it. The cast is also very stacked. It's just a thing to check out if you really want to. I had chosen to watch this movie on streaming instead of in the theaters just because I just didn't have the time to do it in the movie theaters. So I decided to watch this movie on streaming, which probably was a better option for me in general. My initial thoughts of this movie, pretty basic. It's not anything great. I'm not trying to minimize the creator's vision on this, it's just that's what the movie was to me. Before I get started with this review, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I know that 60% of my watchers are not subscribed to my channel. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out. It lets me know that people actually want to watch my content, and it helps to beat the YouTube algorithm. This review is completely spoiler-free. I'm not going to be spoiling anything detrimental to the plot. Watching this won't ruin your experience at all when watching it for yourself. That's not my intention, and that's not really what I'm trying to do. So let's get started with the actual review. Let's talk about the pros of this movie. The positive things that are in this movie are very few. The few things that I will mention, the first one being right off the bat is the visual effects that are done. The CGI work in this is incredible. It's so lifelike. You remember the trailers that they released like before all of this? It's very different than what that is now. It looked very realistic and you could feel the world that you were in, and you didn't get really pulled out of the world based on the two monsters that were fighting, because this movie is Kong versus Godzilla, so you're having two giant fictional monsters fighting each other that are of massive proportions. Obviously that's kind of unrealistic, but the CGI and the visual effects didn't subtract from that reality. I was very impressed by the textures and the amount of detail that went into each of the two monsters for both their close-up shots and for the wide shots that had them, you know, from a distance. The one scene that really pays off for the visual effects work that was done on this is this one scene at the very end. You could also see it in the trailers just a little bit, where the two are fighting in Hong Kong. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything else. That's pretty much it. Another thing that I did enjoy, I think it was a very positive aspect of this movie, was the score of this movie. So the composer for this is a guy named Junkie XL. If I'm being completely honest, I haven't really heard a lot of his work, or at least noticed it, but what he did do was he did compose the score for the Justice League Snyder Cut, and I think that he did an amazing job on that. Because these are two monsters fighting each other with no means of communication, the score does help a lot of this. I have an entire video talking about how sound works in movies, and if you want to know more about how sound works in movies and how it works in movies that feature a non-speaking character, you can go ahead and check that video up in the cards up above or in the link down below. But the score really creates this emotion that is not there because there's no words being said, there's no dialogue between these two characters or any of the characters that interact with either Kong or Godzilla. It's just a thing that happens. The score really helps elevate the performance of the actors or the monsters or the VFX or whatever it is that is on screen. And it's very subtle underneath all of the visuals, and you can hear the difference in the themes from Kong and versus Godzilla. That's a little bit of how the music works in Godzilla vs. Kong. I would watch the movie just based on that, just for a few scenes, and then I'd be fine with it, and I wouldn't have to watch the rest of it just to hear the different undertones of the music. Another positive note that I did think about this movie is about the cinematography, the composition of the shots. It's really hard for somebody who is a cinematographer or a director of photography to to understand how to adjust certain shots that are filmed in real life, like in person, and then filmed in a VFX room or, you know, in a program. But I will say that the camera angles in this, although sometimes they were a little bit weird, most of the times these camera angles were very well placed, or at least composed very well, and it made Godzilla and Kong, the two monsters, seem very larger than life, but at the same time made them realistically proportioned in the shots that had to do with them versus a human being. So those are some of the pros of this movie. Now let's move on into the negative category of things where things get a little bit dicey. I didn't mention the plot at all because the plot does not exist. It does exist, it's just a very simple one. It doesn't really do that much for me as an audience member or me as a storyteller. That's the thing that happens with a lot of these monster movies, or at least movies that have to do with huge natural disasters, is normally humans are dumb and really destructive and the monsters are actually here to save them, but half the humans don't really understand that, so they're trying to kill them. That sort of thing happens in pretty much every monster movie that I've ever seen. Humans are really dumb. Monsters are better. They might destroy like an entire city, an entire population of 1 billion people, but doing things for the greater good. Trust them. Morality kind of gets thrown out the window in these movies, and that's just kind of what happens in this movie as well. Godzilla vs. Kong does not apologize for the simple plot or the blatant disregard of human characterization in general. Most of the characters who were not a dragon or monkey were very basic, one-dimensional. I could say that they're just plot devices. They really just were there to further the plot along. You know, I couldn't care less if they were there. If you took the humans out of the equation, you would still get a monster movie, just with a little bit less us. The first hour of the movie, I was just waiting for Godzilla and Kong to battle. And then the last half an hour of the movie was them battling. You could eliminate the first hour and just have the last half hour and be fine with everything. I don't know if that counts as a spoiler, but that's pretty much how every plot goes anyways, so we're not counting it. So the plot was very basic. The characters were extremely bad. Something else that I found negatively affected this movie was there's this one plot thing that happens, and it basically gives one of the monsters a advantage against the other one. And it's basically the equivalent of you have two characters that are fighting and one of them gets a gun. And now an even match becomes a more uneven match. And that's kind of what happens in this movie in the third act. And they don't tend to explain anything that happens according to that. They just kind of leave it there. They just introduce it and be like, that's happening. Deal with it. All in all, I didn't think that this was a great movie, but it was a movie, and I didn't hate the movie when I watched it, and I probably would watch it again with friends just to kind of do it as a social thing, but I probably wouldn't buy this movie. Monster movies just aren't my thing, and I enjoy watching them once or twice, and then I'm done with them. So those are my thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong. What are your thoughts on this movie, or if you have any at all? I will say that the ending did not really satisfy what I wanted to get out of this movie, but that's fine. I guess. It was a movie. Like this video if you like what I said, or if you like this kind of content, so it helps me defeat the YouTube algorithm. If you really like this content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell notification icon so that you're one of the first people to know when I upload a new video. I upload every Thursday, but sometimes, like this week, I uploaded from Tuesday, Wednesday, and now Thursday. Anyways, happy April Fool's Day to everybody. This is not one of those videos, but happy holidays, I guess. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great random Thursday, and I will see you on the other side of the screen.